Things just took a major turn for the Minnesota Wild, tying up the series in Vegas with Kaprizov and Boldy doing something that we could only have dreamed of in this series. We got to talk about that, plus a huge update on the Wild's top international prospect, Danila Yurov. We got to break down the huge implications on this series and what it means for the Wild going forward in this crazy turn of events. All that coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into the video, a quick reminder, 91% of you watching are not subscribed, guys. We're pushing for 15,000 before the end of the playoffs. You guys have been subscribing like crazy, and if you want to stay up to date on your favorite teams, whoever that is, hit the subscribe button down below. We got you covered, and it's completely free. Mark, we got to dive back into this Minnesota Wild news. And look, we know what happened last night. We know it was a massive 5-2 victory. Everyone showing out. Kaprizov playing unbelievable hockey with 3 points. Boldy with 2 more points. But before we talk about those guys, I wanted to get your opinion on something that some fans were questioning before the game started, and after the game went on, it looks like it may have been the wrong decision, but how can you say that in a 5-2 win? And it has to do with this bottom six right now, and seeing Marco Rossi being paired with Yakov Trenin and Brazeau. It's a bit of an interesting line. Statistically, by far the Wild's worst line last night. Before we get into all these highlights, I want to hear the fans' opinions as well on Marco Rossi and his performance in this game with that line down below. I have my thoughts on it, but I'm curious what you think about this bit of a surprising change from John Hynes. And even though it led to a win, do you think we might see any changes heading into game three?
I mean, listen, it's hard to make a change when you're winning a game 5-2 versus the Vegas Golden Knights, but I think the biggest thing is it kind of limits Rossi to what we expect out of him. We know he plays great, and we spoke on this before recording, Josh. He plays great with top-end talent, and not saying the talent in the bottom six is not good, but I do think he's getting limited on what he can really bring to this team in the playoffs on the fourth line. I know you feel the same way, but I do think a change should happen, but what's your thoughts on it? Probably not.
I mean, like, it's tough because, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, right? Like, Marco Rossi, when we see him with other great talent, when we've seen him with Boldy and Kaprizov, the dude produces like a number one center. He had 24 goals and 60 points this year. And to see that being relegated to the fourth line with a couple of grinders and Trenin and Justin Brazeau is like, kind of what's the purpose, right? Rossi does not gel with that style of player, and that was never more evident than last night. But at the same time, when you're winning games and you have a guy like Freddie Gaudreau who's been a bit more reliable on the faceoff dot and has played decent with Johansson and Zuccarello, as much as we look at that and we think that's kind of not really a second line, it doesn't really feel like a second line. Freddie Gaudreau had some good faceoff wins. He lost some clutch ones in game one, but that seems to be John Hynes' MO. But look, I think after a win, it'll be tough to see any lineup changes, but I want to hear from everyone down below what you think about this Rossi stuff. Don't want to dwell on that for too long because I want to talk about the good stuff, Mark. And like the big stuff right now, Kaprizov 5 points right now in 2 playoff games, Boldy with 4 points, and even Hartman getting 2 points. But it's that balanced effort from the Wild below them, I suppose. I guess you could say balanced effort with Foligno getting the goal, Zuccarello getting the goal. But Kaprizov and Boldy are the stars of the show through games 1 and 2. The Wild had somewhat of a chance in game 1, came out and absolutely dominated in game 2, in large part due to this saucer pass that really set the tone. If you could play that for us right now from Kaprizov, unbelievable stuff. What have been your thoughts on these guys? Honestly, just putting this team almost on their back in a way and performing in a way that we could have only dreamed of against the dominant Vegas Golden Knights.
I mean, listen, that top line has been outstanding, and it starts with Kaprizov. 5 points in 2 games is insane. We watched and looked at a lot of what they did against the Vegas Golden Knights this year. We did a video on it if you want to go look for it as well. And we talked about how they weren't the best team versus the Knights, but this was because Kaprizov wasn't in all the games. I believe he had, 5 or 6 points in 2 games against the Knights. We see 5 points in the playoffs already in 2 games. Kaprizov is the X factor in any series you go into, and he really produces. He doesn't come out and shy away from these moments. I mean, listen, we're going to hop quickly into this, Josh, where we do know Kaprizov is 3rd all-time in Wild playoff scoring, right behind Gaborik and Parise. He's moving up the ranks and has a chance to be number 1. We know how good he's been, but I think the X factor of this series, obviously they need the depth to step up. Rossi might need to move, but I think Kaprizov is the key to success going forward with this team, and that's very obvious to say, but I think he needs to continue producing at this level for the Wild to compete.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think the empty net goal last night did mark his 12th, so he tied Gaborik at the end of last game for second most goals in Minnesota Wild playoff history, which is crazy. But you're right? But when we're talking about the Wild, again, the depth scoring is something that you want to come along if you want sustained success in the playoffs because, teams, especially in a 7-game series, they'll start to game plan around your best players. And look, not to say that they weren't already game planning around Kaprizov, but when you see a team over and over and over, you get to see those little quirks of their offense. The thing is, Kaprizov is so creative. I'm sure he can exploit that regardless. But right now, I think you're right. But as of now, look, it's been a major turn. After that game one, after coming into this series as the heavy underdog, a statement win like that kind of puts a lot of the win back in your sails, especially heading home. You're always happy if you can steal one away in Vegas. They have a pretty good home ice advantage, but you know who else does? The Minnesota Wild. So this is honestly a major turn for me. So Kaprizov's unreal. I want to also talk a bit about Boldy though. Like, honestly, being a +4 through 2 games with 1 win, 1 loss is nuts to me. Just those 2 penalty minutes, 4 shots, 3 goals, 1 assist, in large part due to Kaprizov. I know we had some comments as well about that pass he received. Boldy is also one of those guys, Mark. We talk a lot about Kaprizov, but a guy like Boldy, honestly, like already worth the contract if he wasn't in the regular season, going to be an absolute steal. I mean, he's been arguably just as much as a contributor as Kaprizov, maybe a little less, but like without him, this team is not where they are. And honestly, being able to step up in the playoffs like this at a young age is just one more reason why I think this is like a huge turn, not only for this series, but for this franchise moving forward.
And I mean, listen, just looking at the comments, we've seen Boldy say that was the best pass he's ever received. We've seen Foligno interrupt him saying, actually, that's rude. I assist on your first goal. But the vibes are so high in Minnesota. And like you said, Boldy has been a huge part of this. This was a contract that when signed, some outside fans said, hey, this is a lot of money to give to a young player that hasn't really proven it. And Boldy has came out and proved everyone wrong. All his haters are completely proven wrong. This kid has been outstanding. Going out dominating in the regular season. We see him at a young age being the second leading point scorer for this team with 4. Like you said, +4 is insane. I think the future of this team is insane, Josh. And with Kaprizov, we know there's the contract talks. We need to figure that out in the offseason. But this team is in very good hands when it comes to their young talent. And Boldy really leads the way in that.
Yeah, for sure. Boldy and, Kaprizov not as young, but Boldy, we'll see what happens with Marco Rossi, but it's not just these guys. It's not just these guys in the playoffs. I'm sure you guys have also heard about the Danila Yurov news, but when we're talking about a turning point for the franchise, we got to still mention Yurov right now, right? Because he terminated his contract with Metallurg, and it looks like he's going to be joining either the Minnesota Wild or Iowa Wild or something. I don't know, sooner than we expected because his contract's not up till the end of May. But to hear that he terminated his contract early seems to indicate that maybe he'll come to Minnesota to be alongside the team. Again, he was a bit injured this year. Don't expect him to play in the playoffs. I think that's just absolutely out of the question. However, being around the team, being exposed to this playoff environment, or even going down to Iowa or something for a little bit could be pretty big. Like Danila Yurov coming over, Mark, is just one of these other things that indicate everything's moving in the right direction. This team gets a big win against Vegas. The big Suter and Parise buyouts are coming off the books. Danila Yurov is coming over. There's still a lot of decisions to be made with Rossi's future, a bit uncertain with Kaprizov's contract, but having this kind of talent coming into the lineup likely as soon as next year, well, almost certainly as soon as next year, it's just another big boost to this team. And here he's coming over probably earlier than we thought is even nicer. And it's going to give the boys a bit of a boost as well.
Because, I mean, the biggest thing is looking at Yurov. You also have Zeev that is playing in the playoffs right now. You have Juracek, who is injured, not currently playing. But these 3 guys are just the short list of a long list of prospects.
Wallstedt, too, in net.
Wallstedt, yeah. This team has so many young pieces, not currently in the lineup. Zeev, of course, is in the lineup. But there's a lot of guys that make the future even better for this team. And listen, Yurov's going to be incredible as he grows, a 24th overall pick in 2022. Seeing him join this team, like you said, to even just get around the guys in the locker room, being around the playoff atmosphere, the Wild atmosphere, seeing the fans, I think this helps with the growth of a player, even if he's not getting into games, Josh.
Yep, it's going to be great. I can't wait to see him finally take that step. We get that report. He's officially in North America, heading to Minnesota. It's just everything. The vibes are high right now. Things are going great. And I know we're sharing it with you guys. Let us know your thoughts on everything down below. It's a turning point, again, like I said, not just for this season, but for this franchise. Cannot wait to continue covering them as the years go on. But that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe, guys. 15,000 is not that far away. And even if just, half of you watching this video, hit that subscribe button. We'll get there way faster than we could have ever imagined. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.